I wonder if, now this is all gone again.
No.
How do you say when we come here, by the energy, or there's a resonance between?
There can be
A
not.
resonance.
Or not.
Is there a difference in the what I call liberated energy or a contracted energy, and how could it work?
How can it work?
How can it work?
How can it work? It doesn't.
No.
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens. And
the problem for me is that me thinks there's a contracted energy which has to disintegrate. That's a story. There isn't anything that has to disintegrate, because there isn't anything. But in order to describe this, or nothing describes what seems to happen, what appears to happen, is that there's seems to be energy that's boundless, and then it seems to contract, and then it could seem to disentangle or unravel and be at one again. But when that apparent disentangling happens, it's seen that it never was there anyway. So what we're really describing here is a nothing. What we're describing here is a nothing, but for the me thinks it's something. So the me lives in a world where something one day will happen. That's the problem. That's why it's impossible to describe this in a way. But in some way or other, because there's no teaching here and no real idea that there's something that's going to happen, there's something that resonates with that, which is absolutely beyond me. Me doesn't resonate, but there's a resonance with this.
So resonance itself is also a concept, or?
Well, it's another word. The trouble with all of this is that the word resonance makes resonance a thing, seems to make it an object for the me, because me turns everything into an object anyway. So me's constantly turning everything that's said here into the possibility of finding an object. There's nothing that can be done about that. It doesn't matter anyway, because nothing matters.
There's nothing else than the nothing.
There's only nothing.
There's only nothing.
But the problem for me is that then it'll turn nothing into an object as well.
The reason that I'm here is a longing.
Yeah.
And of course it's the me that has a longing.
Yeah.
And what knows the me that it can has a longing?
Well, no, only me knows that it longs.
And why?
Because it lives in an artificial reality in which things that are real can apparently be known. So for the me, the longing is real, and the me knows it longs. Like it knows it's sitting on a seat. In simple terms, me knows it's sitting on a seat, because it thinks that sitting on a seat is something that's really happening. And I am something here that's real, and I know that sitting on a seat is real, and I am something that's real, and I know that longing is real. That's the problem. And it longs for something that will happen. It won't. What it longs for won't happen. But in a way, it's the same paradox. Directly there's a wavering away from this, then you're back into a teaching. This is Advaita. This is unadulterated non-duality. It doesn't give anything at all, because there isn't anything to give, and there's no one to give it to. It just is. Advaita, not two. Teaching is two. I can teach you, I am one, you are two. I can teach you one to find enlightenment two. It's bullshit. It's just a dream. All teaching is a dream. A dualistic dream. True compassion only destroys.
And what about the emotions?
Emotions are...
When I hear your words, I don't. My mind goes crazy, but my heart is happy.
Yeah.
So why?
Well, that's a description of something that seems to be happening. But in energy, in free energy, emotions apparently arise, like a free heart. There's no why. It's just what's happening. I could tell you, or maybe this could tell you, the reason your heart is opening and happy is because you're in the right place here. You should only come here, never go. Really, And then if you go on coming here, your heart will open so much you'll become enlightened. It's bloody bullshit. It's just bullshit.
Tony, this is so sweet what happened in this moment. Actually, I wanted to ask you something, but it was like, this is the answer already.
Yeah.
In your book, The Open Secret, I read a phrase which really struck me. It was about friendship.
Oh, yeah.
You said something like, exclusivity breeds exclusion, and then freedom is experienced in true friendship.
Yeah.
So I would love to know from your experience, not so much from a theoretical perspective, how do you experience friendship?
Okay, well, I don't. But you could. The only way I could. I'm afraid I'm back to explaining something. The only way that this can explain that is that friendship is something that's energetic. It's like an energy that can't be described. There are different levels or different. How can I say? There are different qualities of energy, or there are different sorts of energy in friendship. There's more powerful or less powerful apparent energy about friendship. But friendship is like an openness. It's like there isn't a sense that there's something here that has to give anything to anybody else or has anything to give. There's no sense of there being different, in that way, there's no sense of there being anything at different levels in that way. Friendship is just an openness, really.
It's so beautiful, thank you. Because from the ego perspective, it seems like it's always like an exchange, like I want this and that, you got this and that. And
yeah, I know, it's absolutely
and this is
not.
so boring.
No, there's no exchange. It doesn't have to be.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So, Tony, there's sometimes the comparison of awakening and dreaming.
Where are you? Oh,
Here.
right. Awakening is, well, dreaming is what me does, but there can be an awakening in which there is no me, and suddenly there is only wholeness, and then there's a me, a meing and being, which seems to go on prior to what's called apparent liberation.
Well, for example, when I'm dreaming of something, a house or a woman or whatever.
Mainly a woman, yeah. It's much more powerful than his house.
But when I'm dreaming, I cannot take a perspective where I can say, okay, I'm just dreaming about this because it seems so real. And then I wake up and I I think about it and I say, okay, it was a dream. Is awakening, is it about the same feeling, or how does it...
For the me, when the me is asleep and it dreams of a woman, and then it wakes up, it thinks it's now stopped dreaming, but actually it's just in another dream, called me, the dream of me.
But when the me wakes up, it's still kind of... I'm much more wiser than in the dream, because in the dream I'm very stupid, I think. Huh? No?
Well, you think you're wiser because that's the arrogance of me. Me thinks that when it's awake, it's conscious and very wise, until a woman walks through the door.
Tony, I was still thinking about that openness. What you said about openness, what friendship is like. And what was coming up was like, I mean, I guess this is already meaning again, this, there's a fear of this openness. Like, oh, I could get hurt or something, or it could seem dull if you're that open, like whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess that falls away too.
Well, the problem, the dilemma that me has is it lives in relationship. It lives in relationship to the sky, to the trees, and to another person, because it sees the other person as something that's over there. So in a sense, you could say that friendship only arises out of nothing, not a relationship. Though the openness is that there's nothing here that has any deal going on with that over there. There's no deal going on anymore. There's nothing that this has to do in order to relate to that.
Sounds really beautiful and relaxing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is it only the human who can create a dream? And animals don't? Animals don't?
No, apparently neuroscientists have discovered that the human brain is the only brain at the moment that's sophisticated enough to abstract a sense of a separate identity.
But when lion defends their kids...
No, but hold on. You don't need a me to be a mother, to mother cubs or to feel hungry, or even with cats and dogs to respond in a certain way that has been taught, or a behaviour that's been taught by owners to respond in what seems to be a human way but isn't. It's just another emotional response in the animal which doesn't come from any sense of identity. People think that, and would like to think that humans are like, animals are like humans. They're not really, they're just being. They respond to everything as it arises. And they can have learnt forms of behaviour which seem to be human but aren't. But at the moment, not that it's always going to be like that, at the moment neuroscientists are clear that the only brain that is sophisticated enough to abstract a sense of a separate identity is the human brain. So when animals do become sophisticated enough to feel separate, then they'll start their own religions.
And this separate identity is a good thing and a problem at the same time.
Sorry, it's not good or bad, it's just what it is. The problem with separation is that you grow up and live in a separate reality. So you're apart from what is. I can't think of anything good actually at the moment.
But it must have a sense that it must have a sense in the evolution that.
Well, evolution is only another apparent thing. There's nothing real about evolution. It's just another apparent energy. And in apparent evolution, then what arose was in the human body a brain that became sophisticated enough to create a sense of having a separate identity. Thereon, that separate identity, using the brain's power, was apparently able to dominate the world in which we live, or it seemed to. It thought it did anyway. Out of that, you could also say that quite a lot of creativity has happened also. Music and art and all those things, to a large extent, come out of a longing. A lot of music and art express a longing for something beyond. Because don't forget, me doesn't do that. It's just energy arising as that. So if you want to say there's something good that comes out of me, you could say it's Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto. But actually, me didn't create Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto. Energy did. And anyway, there's nothing good or bad about Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto. It's just an expression of an emotion, of a longing. So it's just what it is. There is, as far as when the me collapses, it's absolutely apparent that there isn't anything that's good or bad. It just is what is.
But without brain,
Sorry?
without the brain, we have no separated identity.
No, well, without a brain, you haven't got anything much. It's only, I'm only describing what appears to happen. There's nothing happening really, but the brain is nothing braining, and out of the brain arises the ability for the brain to construct an artificial structure or construct called me. It's only artificial, it's not real. Except for me. Me thinks it is.
Another question about the me. Does the me have many layers?
Layers of...
Layers of, for example, I can feel my me trying to use and grasp every word.
Oh yeah.
And turn it around, and I can watch it.
Totally. Yeah.
And who is it who's watching it? Is it again a layer of me?
Yeah, me is the awareness is the energy that keeps me separate. Awareness is the accomplice of separation. By being aware, the me keeps separate.
So it's like, for me, it feels like another layer of me watching this happening.
Which is dualism. Something one is watching this happen, which is two. There are all sorts of
Pretty
things.
Crazy.
Sorry?
Pretty crazy.
Oh, well, it's sort of crazy, but also in a way it's sort of logical, because the me doesn't want to be it doesn't want to be absent. So the way it keeps present is by being aware of or knowing that everything is happening, so that it can live in a knowing and live in a what next energy. It's always looking for what's next, so that it doesn't suddenly collapse or die. It feeds itself all the time. All the time it's feeding itself.
I guess it's if the me is not goodness.
If the me is not...
repeatedly, I don't get the word at the moment, repetitively telling itself that it's there and then it's a problem, it would just vanish, doesn't it?
But it's energy in the form of me, going on, sucking in everything so that it stays there. It feeds itself constantly.
Yeah, that's what was coming when you said it feeds itself. It stays alive while telling itself all the time that it's a problem, and then it's there and blah, 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 like that.
It might tell itself it's a problem, but it doesn't always. It just goes on feeding itself. That's all it can do.
Can there be a stopping of the feeling?
What's going to stop it feeding?
Yeah.
I mean, teachers will try to tell you, don't forget the other thing that happens with me is that it divides into two usually. There's a higher me and a lower me. So all teaching is speaking to the higher me and saying that the lower me always wants to eat everything and smoke cigarettes and drink gin. And that must stop because that's not good. So all teaching is talking to the higher me about rising to a level that is meant to be good or holy or enlightened.
This is even worse.
Oh yeah, well, there's nothing more boring than an enlightened me. I could give you a list of them if you want.
You said you have no choice to decide to come here or not.
Well, it's worse than that. There is no you.
And then you said that because my heart is happy, I'm on the right place. It's because...
No, I didn't say that. That was a joke.
This was a joke.
I know. That was a joke.
I didn't get the joke.
Oh, okay. Oh, damn. There isn't a right or wrong place. There's only what is.
Okay. So I have no choice to go where I want.
You are, well, it isn't that you don't have a choice. It is that there is no you that's real. So there isn't something in there that can choose this or that. There's just what happens.
Maybe the whole thing is a joke that we don't get.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah. The me thinks it's real and it thinks it can make real choices. If apparent choices are made, it's the brain that makes them and then tells the me that it's made a choice. But even that's only energy happening in a certain form. So if you're asked if you'd like tea or coffee, then the brain has a committee meeting and then it decides it'll have tea, and then it calls you in and says you can go and tell the world that you're going to have tea. But you, when you go out and tell the world, I'll have tea, you think you're doing it. Sweet.
No, but I can't do anything at all, even not
nothing.
relax.
Again, there is no you, and there's nothing to do. This is perfect. Why would there be anything to do? This is what is. What is all there is. So why would there be anything to do? If you think there's something to do, then you could do that, but that's what is. That's what is, and that's what is. So what's the point? Why would you need to do anything? This is perfect. Already. That's what this message is saying. All there is what is. So there's nothing to do, because already everything is fulfilled. That's so simple and obvious that me can't get it. Me just can't get that. Because me lives in a right and wrong world. It lives in a dualistic world. So how can Tony say that everything is already perfect and fulfilled? Because it isn't. Because I feel my bum aches, or I'm thirsty, or there's a war in there, and that's wrong, and this is wrong. It doesn't get it. All those things, like my bum aching, or feeling hungry, or there's a war in somewhere or the other, wherever it is all what is. The only thing that thinks there's something better is me. Me thinks there's something better than what is. So it ignores what is and rushes off to find what will be. What will be is all that it looks for. So it never sees that all there is what is.
What will be never will be.
No, what will be never will be.
And me does not like what is. It's always criticize and.
Me can't even know what is, because me lives in a finite world in which time is real, and so it's always moving on to the next thing. So it can't know what is. When there's no one, there's only what is. All the time there's someone, there's only what will be.
Even from the me perspective, if it's like use like a technique, remind yourself, is it what is? It does not help. It's
it's no good.
No satisfaction.
No. Me thinking, oh, now there's only what is the higher self of me thinking it has to be in what is. If he's learnt that what is the answer, then it tries to be in what is, and that's what's called living in the moment. Nobody's ever done it, but living in the moment. Being here now. Be here now. Or other ideas around that, like living in present awareness. It's all bullshit. It's all the higher self's idea of what is like. It has no idea of what is like. Because what is can't be known. So it can't be grasped, it can't be lived.
I want to just make something clear to me.
Sorry?
I want just to make something clear to me.
Yeah.
And so when there is these are, we can like talk about it and describe it. Sounds, colors, we can talk about it. Body.
We can try and describe
yes,
it. Yeah.
Yes. Body, sounds, thoughts.
They're just words that
yes,
try to, yeah.
Yes. And when we say, okay, this is all apparent I can see or hear, or I'm aware of it. So now let's forget about it. So this I can also be aware of awareness. And that's all what we can be aware about. And when we go to sleep, even this awareness disappears, and there is nothing.
Well, there's the blonde.
Sorry?
In the dream, there's something happening. In deep sleep, there's nothing happening.
Yes.
But when the dreaming starts, there's just another story going on.
Yes. So I was just trying to find out this me we are talking about. But when we are trying to find it, we cannot find it.
Oh, when you try to find me, but what's looking for it?
Yeah.
I can tell you what's looking for it. The higher me. The higher me that I will try and find a me.
Yes. Yes.
I can't find it anymore, so I'm enlightened. Bullshit.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for nothing. I like your best though.
Yeah.
You mentioned the concept of awareness is appealing to the higher self.
The awareness is the way that me keeps itself separate.
Yes, feeling this, me.
Yeah.
When I experience awareness,
Sorry,
when I experience awareness, it seems to me something divine or something. It is perhaps only a misunderstanding by me to have this because of my ideas of it.
Yeah, there's a huge school of people who deify the idea of awareness, because the attraction of awareness is it brings a sort of sense of detachment. So self-inquiry is a way in which to promote and reinforce and strengthen a sense of awareness, which is like a sense of detachment, which seems like a sort of enlightenment. It isn't, because it's just another state. But for me, it's quite attractive to be in this sort of ivory tower, looking down on the world and being aware of it and knowing it's there. But the only trouble is it doesn't last long, because it's a state.
There is all there is. Yeah, and when there is this unsatisfaction, it is just energy in the form of this unsatisfaction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Me or awareness is just energy in that form.
Say again, please. Sorry,
Well, awareness, me, separation, all those things are what is. They're just energy in that form, contracted energy. But the problem for me is that me thinks they are real, and me thinks it is real, and it thinks separation is real. So the idea that separation and me are just another expression of wholeness is just an idea. I'm not sure whether maybe that's not what you're asking. What are you asking?
I was looking for where is this unsatisfaction? How do I know that there is this unsatisfaction? What is it? If it's a thought, or what is it? Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't necessarily know that they're dissatisfied. It's an underlying dissatisfaction. Other people are more sensitive to the feeling that they feel separate from other people. For instance, I'm separate from other people. Why am I? That's not satisfying. It's not fulfilling.
So it is like a feeling
yeah.
of.
Yeah, it's an energetic feeling of not being at one, of somehow losing at oneness at a very early age, and suddenly there's two, there's me and everything else. And that's not satisfying.
Thank you.
Thank
you. You talked about the witness. Another people asked, she's visiting her own feelings and so on. That is a witness. There are teachers who say that the real me, the real I, is the witness.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
Can you say something?
Well, no, I've already said it. But, that sort of idea, that sort of teaching is very similar to self-inquiry. With the witness is the watcher, is the awareness of what is. So there is a huge teaching, becoming more and more popular now, called self-inquiry, which is related to the idea that the witness or watching is the true beingness or something. And if you develop your awareness or your watching or your witness, then somehow you're becoming enlightened. All it really does is develop a sense of detachment, because you're now reinforcing and supporting the sense, the energy of watching what's happening. So you're now even more at a distance than you were before with what is. You're watching what is, you're aware of what is. It's the supreme self-centeredness. Self-inquiry is a method of developing supreme self-centeredness. Because the ultimate result of self-inquiry, if you can go to any of them and they will tell you what the ultimate result is supreme knowing. You end up knowing everything. It's just another wonderful arrogance.
Sweet.
Yes.
It's like you've been trained by a teacher, like it's becoming a super me.
Yeah. It's a super me.
But I've been to some teachers, and now you're trying to get rid of it, because you see that it is just a creation and more and more, and now the me is trying to get rid of that superposition.
But it can't.
It can't. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I know, it's the wonderful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a coffee break again.
Sorry, go on. It's one thing. Is it possible that those teachers, they live on that energy?
Oh, absolutely. But I think most of them are sincere about what they do. Because they think they've found something. And if you meet some of them or talk to them, they've got that sort of...
it's like narcissistic.
It's amazing sort of stuff, but they believe it. Like they believe they found something and they can give other people, help other people.
Tony, I don't have so much experience with self-inquiry, but what you were saying, it doesn't fit with the experience I have. I think maybe if somebody pursues it and goes on a path of self-inquiry, that becomes like it's dualistic, obviously. And but what I find is just if I pose the question, who is having this experience, or who is it, just puts me in a gap. Nothing else happens. It opens up a space, which then maybe lasts for a few seconds, and then of course the mind comes back in, and the story and everything. But who's in my experience? It just creates a moment.
Okay, but who's in the gap?
I don't know. No one.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. That's just been my experience, but I never pursued it much or went on the path of self-inquiry.
I wouldn't bother it.
Because it gets very mental, and I think where it becomes such an effort that I don't have. It doesn't attract me in that way.
No.
I wonder that awareness is not necessarily personal.
Sorry?
Awareness is not necessarily personal. So when you say, for example, there is only this, or there's only seeing of this, this also happens.
No, not the seeing of this, there's only this.
Okay. So there's no awareness of anything?
There's nothing else but this.
Yeah, okay.
That's oneness.
Yes.
It can't be known, it can't be described, because if it could be known, then there would be somebody who knows they are one. That's dualism.
Okay.
Is that a question?
When there is clarity.
When there is clarity.
Let's say a kind of understanding, although it's not an intellectual one, because it's impossible to grasp it. is this just a new game?
Yeah, it's just what me can have clarity.
Yeah.
Me can be very clear about the idea or the sense that there is no me. It can have a clarity about the idea that there is no me, but it's still me with now, and now what it has is clarity as well. But clarity isn't liberation.
It has no relevance.
No. It's a sort of relief for a little while, but not for long.
That's good.
Is there a kind of undoing or being undone? False, so the false me or...
There's only an apparent undoing or an apparent unravelling, but there isn't anything to unravel really. Because me was never real anyway. So when the me collapses, there's a sudden recognition and nothing happened. Nothing ever needed to happen. When Buddha came from under the tree after, they said to him, "What happened?" He said, "No thing happened. Nothing happened."
You asked the baby whether it has a question. Perhaps it has no question because it has no me. Is it so that a little child like...
This is about... We're trying to remember that. We're here to remember that.
But the me appears...
The me is an adult.
Some years later.
The me is an adult.
Yeah.
A lot of spiritual teachings talk about surrender.
Sweet.
I know, another mind. But I can feel my mind now trying to surrender to what is. So the next action it's taking. But it feels pretty good to do that.
Sorry?
It feels good to do that, to surrender. But I can feel it's still an action of the mind.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Well, all seeking and all processes for the seeker feel good for a little while. Yeah. But only for a little while. There is no one that can surrender or accept. There is a teaching about acceptance of, accept that you are oneness, accept that there is only what is. Forget it. Who's going to accept and who's going to surrender? Me can only live in a what if, what will be world. So how can it surrender? It's a nice idea, but...
So it means just continue whatever I do, I continue without doing anything.
You're not doing anything, there's only what is.
Okay.
So you just go on meing until you don't.
Okay. Thanks.
I really like the way you point to it in your book when you say that it's not possible to be seen and so obvious in the same time. When you talk about that example of the smuggler passing the frontier every day on a bicycle with a big bag, and the police doesn't find out what is he smuggling.
Yeah. It's a nice story, that one. Yeah.
This is beautiful, and in the end it's the bicycle itself. Haha.
Yeah, it's a good story, that. It's obvious. It's so obvious, but it can't be.
And the mind goes nuts about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So there was a blonde and a professor on an aeroplane. They were flying somewhere. And the professor wanted the blonde to know how clever he was, you know. I'm much cleverer than you are. So he tried to go on impressing her, and so in the end he said, all right, well look, if I ask you a question and you can't answer that question, you have to give me $5, okay? But if you ask me a question and I can't answer it, I'll give you $50. So she said, all right, that's a deal. So he said to her, right, my first question is, how far from the Earth is its nearest star, you see? She said, oh, I don't know. So he said, right, that's $5. So she had to give him $5, you see. And then she said, she thought for a little while, and she said, what climbs up a mountain with 4 legs and only comes down with 3 legs? And he thought that he couldn't. He said, I don't know. So she said, well, I want $50 then. So he had to give her $50. So he was sitting there thinking, and then in the end he said to her, okay, what walks up a mountain with 4 legs and only comes down with 3? And she smiled at him sweetly and gave him $5.
Tell something too. It's no joke. It was in TV, a report about the brain, and this was a very old man. He was a dirigent, and he got sick, and it was worse than Alzheimer, and he couldn't remember the next 3 seconds. And his lady, she was very beloved to him. She was present with him, and he had a book to write in. And on this book, there was written always the same thing: I am.
Oh, right. Thank you. Oh.
He couldn't remember him. He couldn't remember him.
No. He couldn't remember who he was or something. So talking about remembering, you don't have to remember anything about this afternoon. You don't have to take home anything. There's nothing to take home. You can't get this right or wrong. All there is what is. So what you long for never leaves you. When you leave here, go home or go out for a meal, get in your car or whatever happens, that which you long for will never leave you, because it is in what is. There's only what is. The movement of the body, hearing things, all of those things that are happening to you are the beloved speaking to you. Thank you.